They say family is where you can always find trust. But what happens when your own blood sells your property to pamper a selfish sister, then comes crawling back begging for help from the mess they created? This is how I turned their betrayal into a revenge lesson that ensured they'd never dare disrespect me again. Sometimes the people who share your DNA are the ones most willing to auction off your dreams for their convenience. My name is Alyssa, and at 31, I've built the life I always dreamed of, working as a financial manager at Bright Edge Consulting in downtown Chicago. I've spent the last 8 years climbing the corporate ladder with nothing but determination and countless late nights. My corner office on the 15th floor isn't just a workspace, it's a testament to every sacrifice I've made to get here. I'm not what you'd call traditionally beautiful. Standing at 5'8" with broad shoulders from years of swimming in college, I carry myself with the confidence of someone who's earned every achievement through sheer grit. My dark auburn hair is usually pulled back in a practical bun, and my wardrobe consists mainly of sharp blazers that command respect in boardrooms filled with men twice my age. The pride of my life, though, wasn't my office or my six-figure salary. It was my midnight blue Audi S5 Sportback, a car I'd dreamed about since I was 16. Working double shifts at a local diner, every month for 3 years, I'd set aside money for my paycheck, watching my savings grow until I could finally walk into that dealership and pay cash. That car represented freedom, success, and most importantly, the proof that I didn't need anyone's help to achieve my goals. My family lives in the suburbs, about 40 minutes from my downtown apartment. My parents, Robert and Linda, retired early from their jobs. Dad from the post office and Mom from teaching elementary school. They live comfortably but modestly in the same 3-bedroom house where I grew up. Then there's my younger sister, Bella, 7 years my junior at 24, who somehow managed to turn being unemployed into a full-time career. While I was pulling all-nighters in business school, Bella was dropping out of community college because formal education stifles creativity. While I was building my resume with unpaid internships, she was building her Instagram following with selfies from music festivals funded by our parents. She'd drift from one passion to another, photography one month, jewelry making the next, most recently claiming she was going to be a wellness influencer, whatever that meant. Our parents never said no to Bella. Every failed venture, every abandoned dream, every financial disaster, they cushioned it all with excuses and open wallets. She's still finding herself, Mom would say. Not everyone has your drive, Alyssa, Dad would add, as if ambition was some rare genetic mutation I'd been blessed with, rather than a choice I made every single day. I'd watch them drain their savings to fund Bella's latest whim, while simultaneously hinting that I should help more with family expenses because I was doing so well. The irony wasn't lost on me. The child who cost them nothing was expected to contribute, while the one who bled them dry was coddled like a helpless infant. But I'd learned long ago that pointing out this disparity only led to accusations of jealousy and lectures about family loyalty, so I kept my distance, visiting for obligatory Sunday dinners where I'd listen to Bella complain about how exhausting her life was while our parents nodded sympathetically. My apartment became my sanctuary, my car, my escape. Every morning, sliding behind the wheel of my Audi reminded me that I'd made it on my own terms. The purr of the engine was my daily affirmation that hard work paid off, that I didn't need anyone's approval or assistance to succeed. Little did I know that the very symbol of my independence would become the catalyst for the ultimate betrayal, one that would shatter every illusion I had about family bonds and trust. The Seattle conference had lasted 3 days, 3 days of presentations, networking, and closing a deal that would earn Bright Edge Consulting a multi-million-dollar contract. I should have been ecstatic driving home from O'Hare that Thursday evening, but something felt off the moment I pulled into my apartment building's garage. My designated spot was empty. At first, I thought maybe I'd forgotten which level I'd parked on. I spent 20 minutes circling the garage, my confusion morphing into panic with each empty turn. Finally, I called building security, thinking my car had been stolen, but after checking their records, they delivered news that made my blood run cold. My parents had picked up the car on Tuesday, using the spare key I'd foolishly given them for emergencies. My hands shook as I ordered an Uber to their house. During the 40-minute ride, I called them repeatedly, no answer. I texted, nothing. By the time I burst through their front door using my key, I was oscillating between fury and fear. They were all there, Mom, Dad, and Bella sitting in the living room like they were waiting for me. The TV was on, but nobody was watching. Bella was scrolling through her phone, a fresh tan making her look like she'd just returned from somewhere tropical. "Where's my car?" The words came out steady, but I felt anything but. Mom couldn't meet my eyes. Dad cleared his throat. "Alyssa, honey, sit down. We need to talk." "I don't need to sit. I need my car." Bella finally looked up, and I caught something in her expression. Was that guilt? No. It was annoyance. "God, Alyssa, it's just a car. Stop being so dramatic." "Just a car." My voice cracked. "Where is it?" The silence stretched until Dad finally spoke. "We sold it." The room tilted. I gripped the door frame to stay upright. "You... what?" Bella needed the money for her trip with Marcus. Mom rushed to explain, as if that made it reasonable. "You know how important this relationship is to her. He invited her to Turks and Caicos, and she couldn't say no. It would have been embarrassing." Embarrassing. I was practically screaming now. "You sold my car for a vacation." "You barely drive it," Bella interjected, examining her manicured nails. "You take the train to work most days anyway. Marcus says material possessions are just weighing us down from achieving true happiness." "Marcus, the guy you've known for what, 2 months?" "You wouldn't understand," she huffed. "You've never been in love. All you care about is money and status." I turned to my parents, desperate for sanity. "That car was mine. I paid for it. How could you even sell it without my permission? That's theft." Dad's face hardened. "Now hold on, young lady. We're your parents. We've given you everything." "I've earned everything." I cut him off. "Every single thing I have, I worked for. That car wasn't yours to sell." "Family helps family," Mom said, reaching for my hand. I jerked away. "You're doing so well, sweetheart. You can buy another car." But this was Bella's chance at happiness. Marcus is from a good family. This trip could lead to an engagement. I laughed, but it came out bitter and sharp. "How much?" "What?" "How much did you sell it for?" They exchanged glances. 15,000, Dad admitted. I felt sick. The car was worth at least 40,000. 15. You practically gave it away. And let me guess, the money's already gone. The trip was all-inclusive, Bella said defensively. Plus, I needed new clothes, and Marcus expected me to pay for some activities. "Get out my money back, now!" "Alyssa, be reasonable," Mom pleaded. "We're family. Sometimes we make sacrifices for each other." Sacrifices. I was shaking now. When have any of you ever sacrificed anything for me? When I was working 2 jobs in college. Where were you when I couldn't afford textbooks? Did anyone help? But Bella needs a vacation with some guy she barely knows. And you steal my car. "We didn't steal," Dad started. "Yes, you did." I pulled out my phone. "I have the title, the registration, insurance documents, all in my name. You had no right. I want that money back. All of it. Not 15,000, 40,000, which is what it was actually worth." Bella stood up, fake tears welling in her eyes. "I can't believe you're being so selfish, after everything Mom and Dad have done for you." "Done for me." I whirled on her. "Name one thing, one single thing they've done for me that they didn't do twice as much for you." The tears dried up instantly, replaced by a sneer. "At least I'm not a cold, heartless bitch who cares more about a stupid car than her own sister's happiness." That's when I knew. This wasn't just about money or favoritism anymore. This was about control, about putting me in my place, about reminding me that no matter how successful I became, I would always be expected to subsidize their choices. "You have 1 week," I said quietly, looking at each of them in turn. 1 week to get me $40,000. If you don't, I'm filing a police report and pressing charges for grand theft auto. Then I left, calling another Uber with hands that wouldn't stop shaking, ignoring their calls after me about family loyalty and unconditional love. They'd shown me exactly what their love was worth, $15,000 and a beach vacation. The week passed in a blur of ignored calls and manipulative texts. My phone became a battlefield of emotional warfare. Each message more desperate and accusatory than the last. "Mom." "Alyssa, please, You're tearing this family apart. Dad. I'm disappointed in you. We raised you better than this. Bella. I hope you're happy ruining my life. Marcus thinks I come from trash now. By day 4, I'd had enough. I drove my rental car to their house, hoping against hope they'd somehow scrape together the money. What I found instead was a carefully orchestrated ambush. The entire extended family was there: Aunt Patricia, Uncle Tom, my cousins, even Grandma Rose, who lived 3 states away. They sat in the living room like some kind of intervention committee, faces grave with manufactured concern. Alyssa, Grandma Rose started, her voice frail but pointed. Your mother tells me you're trying to destroy your family over money. I'm ashamed. I stood in the doorway, refusing to fully enter. Did she tell you they stole my car and sold it for vacation money? It was a family emergency, Aunt Patricia chimed in. Bella needed... A vacation is not an emergency. My voice was ice. Where's my money? Dad stood up, his face red. We managed to get $5,000 back from the resort. $5,000. I laughed bitterly. Out of 40. The rest is gone, Mom said quietly. The trip was non-refundable, and Bella already spent... Then sell something. Take out a loan. I don't care how you get it. You'd have us go into debt, Uncle Tom asked incredulously, over a car you barely used. I'd have them face consequences for theft, I shot back. That's when Bella played her ace. She collapsed into tears, real ones this time, and pulled out her phone. Look what you've done. She showed me a text conversation. Marcus dumped me because of all this drama. He said he can't be with someone whose family is so toxic. Are you happy now? The room erupted in condemnations. I was heartless, selfish, materialistic. I was choosing possessions over people. I was destroying Bella's chance at love. The words flew at me like arrows, each one aimed at my guilt, my sense of duty, my need to be the good daughter. But something had broken in me that day. I found my parking spot empty. Maybe it was years of being the responsible one while watching them enable Bella's every whim. Maybe it was the casual way they'd disposed of something I'd worked so hard for. Maybe it was the fact that even now, caught red-handed in their crime, they were still painting me as the villain. You know what? I said, my voice cutting through their chorus of blame. You're right. I am choosing my car over this, because my car never lied to me, never stole from me, never made me feel worthless for having boundaries. Grandma Rose gasped. How dare you? I dare because I'm done. I pulled out my phone, showing them the police report I'd already filed online. I gave you a week. You gave me excuses and emotional manipulation. We're done here. You didn't, Mom went pale. I did, and I've already spoken to a lawyer. He says I have an excellent case, especially since I have texts from you admitting to taking and selling the car without permission. The room exploded. Bella screamed that I was ruining her life. Dad thundered about ungrateful children. Mom sobbed about where she went wrong. The relatives hurled every guilt trip in the book Family Doesn't Do This to Family. Blood is thicker than water. I'd regret this when they were gone. But their words bounced off me like rain on armor. I'd spent years absorbing their disappointment, their subtle digs about my success, their constant elevation of Bella's needs over mine. I'd believed that if I just achieved enough, earned enough, they'd finally see my worth. Now I understood in their eyes. My only worth was what I could provide for Bella. I'm moving, I announced over the chaos. Don't try to contact me. If you want to communicate, do it through my lawyer. I started to leave, then turned back for one last look at these people who shared my DNA, but had never truly shared my life. Oh, and Bella, I called out. She looked up, mascara streaming down her face. Marcus didn't leave because of family drama. He left because he realized you're a 24-year-old woman who can't pay for her own vacation. Even con artists have standards. I walked out to the sound of Bella's shrieking and my mother's wails. But the loudest sound was the silence in my own head, the blessed quiet that comes when you finally stop listening to people who never heard you in the first place. That night, I started documenting everything, every text, every email, every voicemail. I saved bank statements showing my car payments, insurance records, the original title. I was building a case, but more than that, I was building evidence of my own reality, proof that I wasn't crazy, wasn't selfish, wasn't the monster they painted me to be. The officer who took my full statement the next day shook his head as he reviewed the evidence. "Family theft is more common than you'd think," he said, "and it's usually the successful kid who gets targeted. You're doing the right thing." For the first time in a week, I felt like I could breathe. I wasn't the good daughter anymore. I wasn't the family ATM or the safety net for Bella's failures. I was just Alyssa, and that was enough. 4 weeks later, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Alyssa." Bella's voice was different, hollow, desperate. "Please don't hang up. You have 30 seconds. I'm in trouble, real trouble. Marcus, he wasn't who I thought he was." I stayed silent, letting her fill the void. "He stole from me, my credit cards, my identity. He opened accounts in my name. I owe almost $50,000, and there are people calling, threatening me. Dad had to sell his truck. Mom pawned her jewelry, but it's not enough. The interest keeps growing, and these people, they showed up at the house. Alyssa, they said if we don't pay by next week. And you're calling me because you're the only one who can help." The words burst out of her. "Please, I know I don't deserve it, but I'm scared. They said they'd hurt me, hurt Mom and Dad. I'll pay you back. I swear. I'll get a job. Like you paid back the money from my car." Silence. Then, quietly, "That's different. This is life or death." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "No, Bella. This is consequences. How can you be so cold? I'm your sister. Were you my sister when you celebrated while they sold my car? Were you my sister when you called me a heartless bitch for wanting my property back? I'll die. Alyssa. They'll kill me. Then I suggest you call the police. Report the identity theft. File for bankruptcy. Get a restraining order. You know, all the adult things people do when they face the consequences of their choices." The call devolved into screaming, begging, more threats of suicide, promises of eternal gratitude. I hung up and blocked the number. But the calls didn't stop. They came from different numbers: Mom's friends, Dad's coworkers, relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone had heard about poor Bella's predicament. Everyone thought I was a monster for not helping. The messages piled up. "She made a mistake. Haven't you ever made a mistake? Family forgives. That's what separates us from animals. Your parents are aging because of the stress. Is your pride worth their health? What kind of person hoards money while their sister faces danger?" Then came the social media campaign. Bella, ever the would-be influencer, posted a tearful video about her situation. She painted herself as a victim of romance scam, conveniently leaving out the part about my stolen car. The post went viral in our community. Comments poured in about how cruel I was, how karma would find me, how money had corrupted my soul. My parents weren't far behind. Mom posted old family photos with captions about remembering better times when love mattered more than money. Dad shared articles about forgiveness and the importance of family bonds. Their friends rallied around them, offering prayers and castigating their ungrateful daughter. But I had my own documentation. Every threat Bella made, every lie my parents told, every manipulative message, I saved them all. My lawyer advised me to stay quiet, to let them hang themselves with their own words. The police case was moving forward, slowly but steadily. A week later, I got a call from my building's security. My parents were in the lobby, demanding to see me. I watched them on the security monitor. Dad looked haggard. Mom seemed to have aged years and weeks. Part of me wanted to let them up, to try one more time to make them understand. But then I saw Bella with them, and any sympathy evaporated. She was recording on her phone, ready to capture whatever confrontation she could milk for sympathy online. "Tell them I'm not home," I instructed security. "And if they don't leave, call the police." They stayed for 3 hours. 3 hours of pleading with security, of calling my phone, of Bella performing her grief for anyone who would watch. Finally, building management threatened to call the police, and they left. That night, I sat in my apartment, looking out at the city lights. My phone sat silent. I'd changed my number that afternoon, giving it only to my boss and a few trusted friends. The drama continued online, but I'd blocked all their accounts, removed myself from social media, created a black hole where their manipulation couldn't reach. In the morning, I'd meet with a realtor about putting my apartment on the market. My transfer request to the Austin office had been approved, a fresh start in a new city where the weight of their expectations couldn't find me. But tonight, I poured myself a glass of wine and made a decision. I pulled out my laptop and started typing. To the creditors of Bella Morrison, I am aware of her debts and her situation. Please note that I am not responsible for any debts incurred by my sister. Any attempts to contact me regarding her financial obligations will be forwarded to my attorney. I have no intention of enabling her continued irresponsibility by clearing debts she accumulated through fraud and deception. I copied it, ready to send to every number that had contacted me about her debts. They wanted to make me the villain. Fine. I'd be the villain who protected herself, who refused to drown trying to save people who pushed me into the water in the first place. The wine tasted like freedom, bitter and necessary. The calls from unknown numbers started at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday. By noon, I'd received 47 calls, each more desperate than the last. I let them all go to voicemail, listening to them during my lunch break like some kind of twisted podcast. Alyssa, this is Mom. Please, we need to talk. Things have gotten worse. It's Dad, your sister. Just call us back, please. You fucking bitch. You're going to let them kill me. I'm your sister. That last one was Bella, of course. Her masks were slipping, revealing the entitlement that had always lurked beneath her victim act. By Wednesday, the messages had evolved. Uncle Tom called to inform me that Mom had collapsed from stress and was in the hospital. Aunt Patricia left a weeping voicemail about how Dad was working 3 jobs to try to pay off Bella's debts. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years suddenly remembered my existence, each with their own angle on why I was destroying the family. I almost broke when Grandma Rose called. Her voice, usually so strong, sounded paper thin. Alyssa, darling, I don't have much time left. Please don't let my last memories be of a family torn apart. But then I remembered, where was Grandma Rose when they stole my car? Where were any of them when I was being gaslit and manipulated? They only cared about family unity when it meant I should sacrifice. Thursday brought escalation. A video appeared on social media. Bella, looking haggard and terrified, supposedly hiding from creditors. She claimed I was sitting on millions while she feared for her life. The community response was swift and vicious. My name was mud in every neighborhood Facebook group. Someone even started a GoFundMe for Bella's escape from danger, though I noticed my parents were listed as the beneficiaries. That's when I made my move. I'd been documenting everything, but now it was time to use it. I created my own video not for social media, but for my lawyer. In it, I calmly presented every piece of evidence, bank statements showing my middle-class salary, comfortable, but far from millions, the police report about my stolen car, screenshots of Bella's luxury vacation posts while she claimed poverty, the threatening messages from my family, and most damningly, a recording I'd made of Bella admitting she knew Marcus was sketchy, but thought she could play him for his money. My lawyer was blunt. This is enough to not only proceed with the theft charges, but potentially file for harassment and defamation. Your sister's public videos could constitute libel, especially her claims about your wealth. Do it, I said, all of it. But I wasn't done. That evening, I did something I'd been considering for weeks. I called the IRS. I'd like to report suspected tax fraud, I said, my voice steady. My sister has been receiving substantial gifts from my parents, including a $40,000 car they sold without reporting them. She's also been running various online businesses without proper documentation or tax filings. The agent took down the information with professional interest. It turns out, selling someone else's property and gifting the proceeds has significant tax implications my family had naturally ignored. Friday afternoon, the final push came. My building's security called again. This time, it wasn't my parents in the lobby, it was 2 men in cheap suits asking about me. They claimed to be friends of the family, trying to mediate a situation. I called the police immediately. The men were gone by the time officers arrived, but security footage caught their license plate. One of them had a record for debt collection through alternative means. The threat was real, but it also played into my hands. I now had evidence that Bella's creditors were genuinely dangerous and that my family had knowingly sent them my way. That night, my phone rang with a number I recognized, my parents' landline. Against my better judgment, I answered. They came to your building. Mom's voice was hysterical. Alyssa, we didn't know they'd do that. We just mentioned you might help. You gave dangerous people my address. We didn't think. No, I cut her off. You didn't think. You never do. You just assume I'll fix everything. Clean up every mess. Pay every bill. Well, congratulations. You finally created a mess I won't clean up. Please, Dad's voice came on speaker. We'll lose the house. Everything. Your mother's in the hospital. Which hospital? I asked. I'll send flowers. Silence. Then, quietly. You don't mean that. St. Mary's Riverside General. Which hospital? Dad. More silence. Finally. She's home. But her blood pressure. I hung up. The hospital lie was the final straw. The last manipulation that severed whatever thread of obligation remained. I spent the weekend finalizing my move to Austin. My apartment was packed. My forwarding address was a P.O. box, and my new life was waiting 1,500 miles away. But I had one last thing to do. Sunday evening, I sent a mass email to every relative, family friend, and flying monkey who'd contacted me. Attached was a folder titled, The Truth About Bella's Situation. Inside were screenshots, recordings, and documentation showing the real story, the theft, the lies, the manipulations, the tax fraud, everything. The email concluded with this. I've been painted as a villain for refusing to enable criminal behavior and protect myself from harassment. The attached evidence shows the truth. Make your own judgments. But know this, I'm done defending myself to people who chose comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths. Any further contact will be considered harassment and handled accordingly by law enforcement. To those who truly cared about my well-being during this time, thank you. You know who you are. To everyone else, I wish you all the happiness you deserve. Alyssa. Within hours, the tide began to turn. The GoFundMe was investigated and frozen. The social media posts were deleted. Several relatives called to apologize, finally seeing how they'd been manipulated. But I didn't answer. I was already driving south. My rental car loaded with everything that mattered, leaving behind the ashes of relationships that had been dead long before I finally held the funeral. My family had taught me one valuable lesson. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to be used anymore. 2 months into my new life in Austin, I'd almost achieved peace. The Texas sun felt like a cleanse, burning away the shadows of Chicago winters and family dysfunction. My new apartment had a security system that would make Fort Knox jealous, and my colleagues at the Bright Edge Austin office knew me only as the competent transfer from Chicago, no baggage, no drama. Then Marcus contacted me. The email came to my work address, the only one my family didn't have. The subject line read, You deserve to know the truth about your sister. Against every instinct, I opened it. Alyssa, your sister probably told you I scammed her. The truth is more complicated. Yes, I took money, but only after I discovered she was planning to do the same to me. I have recordings of her discussing with your parents how to access your bank accounts. They plan to use your mother's maiden name and your childhood addresses to reset your passwords. The attached files might interest you. Marcus. My hands shook as I opened the attachments, audio files, screenshots of text messages, even a video of Bella practicing answers to security questions using information she'd gathered about me. The most damning was a recording from the week after they sold my car. Bella's voice. She has at least $200K saved. I saw her investment statements when I was at her place. Mom's voice. We could say it's for medical bills. Dad's voice. No. Too easy to verify. We need something she can't refuse. Maybe if we said the house was being foreclosed. Bella again. Or we could just reset her passwords. I know her first pet was Whiskers, and she always uses variations of her college dorm address. The recording continued for 20 minutes, detailing exactly how they planned to drain my accounts. The only reason they hadn't succeeded was that I'd changed all my security information after the car theft, a paranoid move that now seemed prophetic. I forwarded everything to my lawyer and the police detective handling my case. Then I hired a cybersecurity expert to do a full audit of all my accounts. What he found chilled me. 17 attempted password resets across various financial platforms, all originating from IP addresses traced back to my parents' house and Bella's phone. But they hadn't stopped there. The expert found evidence of attempted identity theft credit card applications in my name, loan inquiries, even an attempt to add Bella as an authorized user on my accounts. Most had been flagged and rejected thanks to the fraud alerts I'd placed, but some had gotten dangerously close to succeeding. Your family was essentially running a long-term identity theft operation against you, the expert concluded. This goes way beyond a desperate grab for quick cash. This was planned, systematic financial abuse. The revelation broke something in me. I thought the car was a one-time betrayal born of desperation, but this was years of planning to systematically rob me while I sat at their dinner table, listened to their problems, tried to be a good daughter and sister. I authorized my lawyer to add identity theft, attempted fraud, and conspiracy charges to our case. The civil suit alone would destroy them financially. The criminal charges could mean jail time. 3 days later, my work phone rang, a number I didn't recognize, but the area code was Chicago. Miss Morrison, this is Detective Sarah Chen. My breath caught at the familiar name, but she continued. From the Chicago PD Financial Crimes Division, we've been investigating your case, and with the new evidence you've provided, we're prepared to make arrests. I wanted to give you a heads up. Arrests, plural. Your parents and sister are being charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and multiple counts of attempted financial crimes. The evidence is extensive. Marcus Hoffman is also being arrested, but he's agreed to testify in exchange for reduced charges. The world tilted. When? Tomorrow morning. I wanted you to know in case they try to contact you. Also, we'll need you to testify eventually. Will that be a problem? No, I heard myself say. No problem at all. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking my phone, waiting for the explosion. It came at 9:47 a.m. Austin time. The first call was from Aunt Patricia. I didn't answer, but her voicemail was pure panic. They arrested them, Alyssa. The police came and arrested your parents and Bella. How could you? Then Uncle Tom, you need to drop these charges immediately. This has gone too far. Grandma rose. I hope you're satisfied. You've destroyed everything. But mixed in were other messages. Cousins admitting they'd been asked to borrow money for the family. Friends revealing that Bella had tried to open credit cards in their names too. Former family friends sharing their own stories of small thefts and manipulations they'd ignored for years. The truth was cascading out like water through a broken dam. My family hadn't just targeted me, I was simply their biggest mark. The pattern went back years, decades even. Small scams. Borrowed money never returned. Sob stories that always ended with someone else paying. By evening, a different narrative was emerging on social media. People were sharing their own experiences, comparing notes, realizing how deep the con went. The GoFundMe for Bella had been turned into a fund for their victims. My inbox filled with apologies from people who'd believed their lies. But I felt no satisfaction, no vindication, just a hollow ache where my family used to be. That night, I sat on my Austin balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of justice and regret. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it, then saw the preview. This is your mother. They gave me one call. I blocked the number without reading the rest. Tomorrow, I'd wake up in a city where no one knew my maiden name, where my success was my own, where my bank accounts were secure behind walls of legal protection. Tonight, I mourned the family I'd never actually had while celebrating the freedom I'd finally claimed. The revenge wasn't sweet, it was necessary. The call came at 3 a.m. on a Wednesday, 6 weeks after the arrests. My emergency contact number, the one I'd only given to my lawyer and the Austin police for safety reasons. Detective Sarah Chen's voice was professional but concerned. Miss Morrison, there's been an incident. Your family made bail 2 weeks ago, and tonight your sister was admitted to Chicago General with what appears to be a drug overdose. She's stable, but she's been asking for you. More importantly, we found evidence on her phone of a plan to... She paused. To frame you for providing the drugs that caused her overdose. I sat up in bed, instantly alert. What? Text messages between your sister and an unknown number, discussing how to make it look like you'd sent her contaminated pills as revenge. There were also searches about inheritance law and life insurance policies. We believe this was a deliberate attempt to either extort money from you or set up grounds for a civil suit. My hands were steady as I took notes. The shock had worn off months ago. Now there was only cold clarity. What do you need from me? Can you account for your whereabouts for the last 72 hours? Any digital trail showing you've been in Austin? I've been at work, conferences, meetings, logged into our system. I can provide everything. Good. One more thing, your parents were also texting about accessing your apartment in Chicago. They seem to think you still have the lease. Any chance they could have keys? My blood chilled. I'd kept the Chicago apartment as an investment property, renting it furnished through a management company. If they got in, they could plant anything: drugs, stolen goods, fake evidence. I need to make some calls, I said. The next 12 hours were a blur. My lawyer coordinated with the Chicago PD while I worked with the property management company to change all locks immediately and install emergency security cameras. The cybersecurity expert ran another full audit, finding 3 more attempted breaches in the last week alone. But my family had made a crucial mistake. They'd underestimated how thoroughly I documented everything. Within hours, we had evidence of their planning. Bella's overdose had been carefully calibrated enough to require hospitalization, but not enough to cause permanent damage. The drugs were prescription pills, legally obtained but taken in a dangerous combination. She'd researched exactly how much to take for maximum effect without fatal risk. The text messages were damning. Bella, if I'm in the hospital, she'll have to come. Family emergency. No one refuses that. Unknown number. And if she doesn't? Bella. Then we leak that she knew I was suicidal and did nothing. Maybe even pushed me to it. Public opinion matters in civil suits. Mom. Make sure someone videos everything. We need proof of her cruelty if she refuses to come. They'd even scripted responses for different scenarios. If I showed up, drug me, plant evidence, call police. If I sent money, document it as admission of guilt. If I did nothing, paint me as heartless and sue for emotional distress. But the most disturbing discovery came from the property management company. The security footage showed my parents at the building the previous night, trying to convince the doorman they were worried about me and needed to check my apartment. When that failed, they'd attempted to pick the lock on the service entrance. Only the arrival of a security patrol had stopped them. I filed for emergency restraining orders that afternoon. The judge, reviewing the evidence, granted them immediately and added a note that any violation would result in immediate jail time. Bail revoked. That evening, as I sat in my Austin office finishing quarterly reports, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Someone had leaked the story to a Chicago investigative journalist. The headline read, "Prominent Chicago family arrested in elaborate fraud scheme against successful daughter." The article was brutal in its thoroughness. The journalist had done their homework, interviewing other victims, analyzing court documents, even finding Bella's old social media posts bragging about expensive purchases while claiming poverty. But the coup de grace was a photo security footage of my parents trying to break into my apartment, their faces clear in the harsh fluorescent lighting. Within hours, it went viral. The public sentiment that my family had so carefully cultivated shattered like spun sugar in rain. The comment sections filled with people sharing their own experiences with toxic families, praising me for standing up to abuse, calling for justice. Bella discharged herself from the hospital against medical advice that night. The last update I received from Detective Chen was that she'd been caught trying to board a bus to Mexico with a fake ID. My parents were found at a motel. Their car packed with my childhood belongings. They'd apparently planned to sell photo albums, awards, anything with my name on it that might have value to collectors if I became notorious after their frame job. The restraining orders became permanent. The criminal case moved forward with new charges of attempted breaking and entering, conspiracy to commit fraud, and attempted extortion. The civil case grew to include emotional distress, defamation, and attempted identity theft dating back years. My lawyer called it one of the most comprehensive cases of family financial abuse he'd ever seen. They didn't just want your money, he said. They wanted to own you, control you, and destroy you if you refused. This goes beyond greed. This is pathological. That night, I bought a bottle of champagne not to celebrate, but to mark an ending. As I sat on my balcony, watching the Austin skyline glitter with possibility, I raised a glass to the family I'd lost and the freedom I'd gained. The next morning, I would wake up to a new life, legally protected from the people who shared my blood, but never my values. Their plans had failed, their manipulations exposed, their control shattered. They'd wanted me to play the villain in their story of family betrayal. Instead, I'd become the hero of my own story of survival. The champagne tasted like vindication, expensive and well-earned. The trial ended on a Thursday, guilty on all counts. My parents received 2 years each, suspended to probation with mandatory restitution. Bella got 3 years, 18 months to serve, the rest on supervised release. The judge called their actions a calculated betrayal of the most fundamental trust between family members. I watched the sentencing via video link from Austin. My face composed as my mother sobbed and my father stared straight ahead. Suddenly old, Bella tried to catch my eye through the camera, mouthing something that might have been please or might have been another curse. I looked through her like she was transparent, which, in a way, she finally was. The restitution was set at $127,000, my car's value, the attempted thefts, legal fees, and damages. The judge made it clear this wasn't optional. Assets would be seized, wages garnished, property liquidated if necessary. The family home would be sold, the profits distributed to their victims. They'd leave prison with nothing but the clothes on their backs and a lifetime of debt. But the money wasn't what mattered. What mattered was the principle. Clearly stated in legal documentation, they were thieves who preyed on their own daughter, and now everyone knew it. 6 months later, I stood in a Dallas showroom, keys in hand, looking at my new car, a pristine BMW M4 midnight blue with cognac leather interior. It cost twice what my Audi had, paid for with cash for my promotion to senior director at Bright Edge's Texas division. As I signed the final paperwork, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number with a Chicago area code. I almost deleted it, then saw the preview. Alyssa, this is Michael, Bella's public defender. I blocked it without reading more. There would always be flying monkeys. Always be people who thought I should forgive and forget. But forgiveness without accountability isn't noble. It's enabling. A year after that Thursday verdict, I received a package forwarded from my old Chicago P.O. box. No return address. But I recognized my mother's handwriting. Inside were photos of my childhood, family vacations, Christmases and birthdays when we still pretended to be normal. A letter sat on top, water-stained and pleading. I read the first line. Alyssa, I know you'll never forgive us, but I need you to know that we loved you. We just loved Bella more. I stopped reading and fed the entire package to my shredder. The photos jammed the machine halfway through, so I had to finish the job by hand, tearing each memory into confetti. It felt appropriate they'd torn apart our family for money, so I tore apart their attempts at emotional manipulation for my peace. The strangest part was how little I felt. No sadness, no anger, just a mild annoyance at having to buy a new shredder. They were strangers to me now, people I'd once known who'd revealed themselves to be criminals. You don't mourn losing people who were never really there. My life in Austin bloomed. I bought a house in the hill country, started dating a fellow executive who understood boundaries, adopted 2 rescue dogs who gave me all the unconditional love family was supposed to provide. My success was entirely my own, unmarred by their grasping hands or emotional manipulation. Sometimes, late at night, I'd check the public records. Dad worked at a hardware store. Mom cleaned offices, both their wages garnished for restitution. Bella had been released early for good behavior, but violated parole within a month by attempting another identity theft scheme. She was serving her full sentence now. No early release possible. Did I feel any remorse? Not at all. They made their decisions, and every decision carries a price. They were the ones who showed me that family was about taking, so I took back what was mine. They proved that blood ties meant little when they came with strings attached, so I gave them what they deserved, absolutely nothing. The last update I allowed myself was on the 2nd anniversary of the trial. A news article about prison reform featured a familiar face, Bella, thinner and harder, talking about how family betrayal had led to her crimes, even behind bars. She was spinning the narrative, making herself the victim. I closed the laptop and went outside to my pool, where friends were gathering for a barbecue. Real friends, chosen family. People who valued me for more than my bank account. As laughter filled the evening air and my boyfriend threw steaks on the grill, I realized something. They'd sold my car for a vacation. In return, I'd purchased my freedom with their future. It was the best deal I'd ever made. My name is Alyssa, and this is where my story ends, not with reconciliation or forgiveness, but with boundaries held firm and a life well lived. They say the best revenge is massive success, but I disagree. The best revenge is refusing to let toxic people have any place in that success at all. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'm curious, where are you tuning in from? Drop a comment below, and let me know what city or country you're listening from. I love connecting with listeners from around the world. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing to the channel and sharing your own thoughts about dealing with toxic family members. Have you ever had to cut off family who felt entitled to your success? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below.